Hello, welcome to Miss Peepers Reading Corner. I'm Katrina, aka Miss Peepers. Let's talk about virtual reality. Today we're discussing Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This is a dystopian novel set in the 2040s in which the internet has basically become a virtual reality space. This novel's core plotline follows a teenage boy named Wade Watts. Wade has grown up in poverty, and in his mind, the only way to pull himself into a better economic situation is to win a contest, a very specific contest. Several years before the book starts, a billionaire named James Halloway, who invented the Oasis, this online virtual reality space, dies. Halliday has no heirs, and so he decides instead to set up a series of puzzles within the Oasis, and the prize of solving all of these puzzles and getting to the finish line first, finding the Easter egg, as he calls it, is his fortune and his company. So that's $240 billion, that's with a B, and an owning share in the Oasis. Now that's a dollar amount to turn anyone's head, and at first, tons of people, hundreds, thousands of people start trying to solve the first puzzle. But after a while, with no progress, enthusiasm dies down, and all that's left are a handful of diehard gunters, as they call themselves, egg hunters, and a company called IOI. This company that is competing, technically speaking, has an incredibly unfair advantage in that there is an entire department of people trying to solve the puzzles, learning about the things that James Halliday loved, learning about his life, and trying to figure this out, all for the purpose of handing the winnings, should they win, over to this organization, which seems unfair, but it's technically not against the rules. Now, if that sounds familiar to people in the United States, it's because in the United States, corporations have many of the same rights as humans, which is weird. Like, that's weird, okay? It's dystopian. It's also a symptom of late-stage capitalism, which this book, of course, critiques. But what's interesting about how Ready Player One discusses capitalism is that it does critique it in that there is a massive difference between the richest class and the least rich class. And there's not a whole lot of middle class economic status in between. So Wade and the other Gunters are looking for a win, an easy way, and I'll put that in air quotes because these puzzles are not easy, to be very clear, otherwise it wouldn't take 5 years for someone to solve the first one. But they're taking this easy way to get billions of dollars. This book is set in the United States, where we have this myth of the self-made man. And I know that's not unique to the US. We have this idea that you can pull yourself up out of any situation and improve yourself. And even Halliday's backstory is this kind of story, where he was born in reduced circumstances. His parents didn't have a whole lot of money, and so neither did he, but he invented a bunch of technology, he built a company, and then he died worth billions of dollars. And so while this narrative is out there in the world that you can become anything if you just work hard enough, I think most of us understand on some level that that kind of wealth comes down to luck. There are people who, in real life, start with only a little and over their lives build up a vast amount of wealth, but those people were privileged in other ways. Maybe they had extreme intellect, maybe they were in the right place at the right time. And that's not to knock their intellect and hard work, but that's only a portion of it. And I think we all know that to some degree, because my guess is pretty much everyone watching this video works hard at something. But that doesn't necessarily mean you are ridiculously wealthy. And so people buy lottery tickets, they enter contests. We write capitalist fairy tales like this one, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like the inheritance games, where someone who has nothing is plucked out of the crowd and given something that they never thought they would ever have. We all know that that's how you get wealth. You get wealth by having wealth. You're either born into the quote-unquote right family, or you win a contest and astronomical odds. And this book is full of references to that inequity, not just Halliday's backstory, as I mentioned, but also Wade, because of his lack of financial resources, he is at a disadvantage compared to his best friend, H, who is also a gunter and has money. And even though they are friends, there is still this inequity between them. Wade doesn't feel comfortable asking for money, and H knows that Wade is too proud to accept it, and so does not make the offer, because they both know that that will create further imbalance within their friendship. Another theme in here that I think could have been built out more, but it's definitely in here, is the idea of identity in an online space. Within the Oasis, you can create an avatar that looks like anything, can be any gender you want, any species you want, any skin color, any appearance, any hair, any clothes. The possibilities are limited only by human imagination. And so people often are not what they seem to be, which honestly is not entirely unlike the internet today. This is what I look like. However, you're just seeing a piece of my library, which is quite frankly kind of a mess, because it's been a rough month and we didn't quite finish tidying from the holidays. Regardless, you're seeing a nice, neat view of what I want to show you. In the world of Oasis, where there's an avatar, I could be anyone. My husband puts this quite succinctly: when you're online, men are men, women are men, and children are the FBI. And while this is certainly a jaded view and is not true 100% of the time, in order to set realistic expectations in online spaces that are anonymized, it's important to remember the person you're talking to may not be, and probably is not, what they're presenting. So we have a few characters in Ready Player One who are not what they seem. There is some discussion about gender and race, and how when you change those things in your avatar, you are also changing people's initial perception of you. So in some ways you can bypass discrimination by pretending to be something you're not. And while that's definitely a thing that happens, that's something that I feel was not as well built out in this book as it could have been, because the other side of that coin is, by doing that, you are also in some way diminishing yourself, and also diminishing the those aspects of yourself in order to smooth your own way. And there's not one easy answer on what to do there or how to approach that. We only see one character's approach to it. And like, honestly, Ernest Cline is a white man. This does not give him a pass. It's simply an explanation, I think, that I don't think he really thought through that portion of it terribly much. And so his privilege definitely shows in that particular part of the discussion. Because why wouldn't you be a white man online? Because white men have all the privilege. Like, he knows it, but he doesn't quite get there. And then when Wade does finally meet this character, it's a bit awkward for a few minutes, but then the explanation is put out there and then it's all forgotten. Like, whatever. And I'm not saying that Wade himself would not respond in that way, but it just felt like a missed opportunity to discuss something more in depth. I recall when the film adaptation of this book was released, I went to watch it, as did many people in my circle. And from a lot of the people that I talked to about the movie, and for those who read the book, a lot of people honed in on the technology of the Oasis, which is cool, don't get me wrong, it's cool technology. I pointed out to a number of them, you know, this is a dystopia, right? Part of the lure of the technology is that it pulls people in and they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave the virtual space to go live in their crappy lives, essentially, which is different technology, but exactly what happens today. We've all done it. And as I was reflecting on this, a video came across my feed by Willow Talks Books, who is delightful. I'll link to this particular video. You should check it out. She's got a great channel. Watch her stuff. But she was talking about media literacy, not about Ready Player One, but about other books. And she was talking about how people can read a book and walk away with a completely flawed impression of it. Not about whether or not it's good, because the truth is, reasonable people can disagree about whether they enjoy something. You don't have to like Ready Player One to see the themes that I saw within it. But it was great timing, because I felt something similar happened with this. One of the things that I love about science fiction is how an author's view of the future makes you think about the present. They're taking what they see around them at the time that they're writing the book, and projecting out into some hypothetical future space. And Ready Player One is no different. Though I will say that one critique I have of it, and I mentioned this in the short that I posted a few weeks ago, is that there is so much showing instead of telling. There's so much exposition describing how the world works and how the technology works. There's more than I think is necessary. This is also Ernest Cline's first novel. I don't know if that's a debut author thing, if that's something that that he will grow out of as he progresses as a writer. I hope so, because quite frankly, it was a little bit annoying at times. Flaws aside though, I really did enjoy this novel. I do want to read Ready Player 2. I haven't gotten my hands on a copy yet, but I will at some point, although I've heard that people did not like it as much. Still, the completionist in me wants to know what happens after the contest is won. But let me know, have you read Ready Player One or anything else by Ernest Cline? Tell me what you thought in the comments. If you don't feel like chatting, that's okay. If you want to put just an emoji, we could go with maybe goggles to represent the VR headset. Goggles or glasses. I should probably look at emojis before I film these things so I have an idea of a real emoji to suggest, but something along those lines. But regardless, please keep reading, and I will see you in the next one.